Welcome again to Toyota Time with Timmy the Toolman. I just came across a problem with my truck, unfortunately. I was going to head out on a mountain bike ride, but now I'm working on my truck. What happened is I started it and the starter kept on going while the engine was on. I turned the key off, starter's still going. So I jammed into my garage, got a wrench and pulled off the negative cable to stop it. I reconnected it, tried starting it again, same damn thing. So I did a quick search and it looks like maybe the starter contacts might be bad on the solenoid. So I'm going to try that first before shelling out the dough either for a remanufactured starter or buy a whole brand new starter itself, which probably is going to cost a lot of money. So I'm going to pull the starter out and see if I could just change the contacts. Going out to the truck. Not ideal because I'm at a slant, but I got two good chocks in the rear of the truck. I got just the passenger side up, resting on a 6-ton jack stand, and I have the hydraulic jack sitting underneath the cross member with a little bit of weight on it just so it doesn't move, so in case that jack fails, it's a backup. And here's the chocks, so I won't roll back. Ideally, it'd be better to do this on a flat surface, but I can't start my truck to get into the garage, so I'm going to work on it right where it's at. The next thing I'm going to do is take off this little rubber cover. They just kind of slip off these attachment points. I don't know if all the years are like this, but this seems pretty easy. And I just want to see what's going to be the best way to get at the starter bolts. This is the starter right here. The contacts are down here. You could see them. So I'm just looking to see how I'm going to get this thing off. I think I'm going to take the bottom, the rear skid pan off and see if it's going to be easier to get to the bolts from the bottom as opposed to going maybe behind the exhaust here. So I'll figure that out and come back. Okay, next I'm going to take the rear skid pan off. These are 12 millimeter. Okay, and this thing just unsnaps right here. It's got a little lip. This little lip right here goes into here. So now that's out of my way. And I'm going to better look at the starter. Okay, so the starter contacts are the connections right here. So I think I'm going to try to get those undone first and then work on getting the bolts off that hold the starter onto the transmission. So I got a 3/8 inch ratchet with a short extension with a 12 millimeter socket, and I'm able to break it loose, and then just enough room to get your hand in there to take the nut off, and then you can take the contact off. And I do have the battery disconnected, by the way. I mean, I had to because the starter was just running constantly. The next thing I'm going to do is try to take this bottom electrical connection off. So I was able to reach my hand up through here, right along the side of the oil pan, and then get my hand up here to press the little clip on the back and to pull it out. So you can see that I got it loose now. So I got both things disconnected. Now I'm going to work on getting the bolts undone or loose. And it looks like there's one up here where my index finger and the one right here where my thumb is. So thumb, index finger, those two bolts. I don't know if there's any more holding it on, but it looks like that's just it. I do remember reading a write-up on this that the best way to get the starter out, so before loosening the bolts, I'm going to loosen this brake line bracket and this one right here, the bolts on the other side. And I read that you can pull the starter right out through here once you get the brake line out of the way, because getting it out through the bottom is almost impossible from what I read. I think on the two-wheel drives you can get it out through the bottom, but on the four-wheel drive models you got to get it right through here, or some guys just work on the starter inside the engine compartment rather than pull it out. But I'm gonna see if I can pull it out and work on the solenoid on my bench. So I'm gonna disconnect the bolt for here and here first and get these out of the way. Looks like it's a 12 millimeter also. A lot of 12 millimeter bolts on this truck. Okay, that one's free. I'm gonna have to get underneath and see how I could access that one. So I'm on the inside of the passenger side frame. I've got the I got a 3/8 ratchet with a 12 millimeter and just the socket, no extension. So in case you can't see it, right here. And it broke free pretty easily. I'm guessing if you're in the rust belt this might be a little harder, but mine came loose pretty easily being a California truck. So I'm going to take that bracket off now. So I started it, broke it loose with the 3/8 ratchet. Now I'm going to finish it off with this Milwaukee Cordless. A lot easier than taking a lot of short strokes with the ratchet. Okay, now I'll be able to get the bracket out of the way. There's a clip right here that holds this brake line on. So I just popped it out of the clip and pushed it over so I can get a little more movement. I won't know until I start trying to move the start out if this is going to work to get it out this direction, because I'm not able to get the brake line out of the way as much as I thought. I'm able to pull it over pretty far, so maybe that'll be enough. There's a clip right here that holds this brake line on. So I just popped it out of the clip and pushed it over so I can get a little more movement. I won't know until I start trying to move the start out if this is going to work to get it out this direction, because I'm not able to get the brake line out of the way as much as I thought. I'm able to pull it over pretty far, so maybe that'll be enough. The thing I'm remembering now, you have to remove a section of the transmission dipstick. So right underneath the valve cover, I don't know if you can see that, there's a bolt right there. It's a 12 millimeter bolt. Staring right at it, it's got a bracket that holds the transmission dipstick. So it's a 12 millimeter, and I'm going to access it from right through here with a long extension 3/8 inch drive. And that's loose. Didn't take much to break it free, and I'm going to remove that. I got to remember I got to go up top and pull the dipstick out first so I don't bend it. So I'm going to pull the dipstick off and then remove the tube. So you can see I put a shorty extension and a little bit longer one. If you have just one longer one, you can get in there. So and got that bolt out, and it looks like this should just pull right out of the, just pulls right out of here, I think. There we go. I'll just bring it out this way if I can. Maybe I'll take it out the top, it'll be easier. Where is it at? There you go. There's the upper part of the transmission tube. You can see a little O-ring here, so I guess you got to make sure you don't lose that. That helps create the seal to the bottom part of the tube. Okay, next stop, remove the starter bolts. Okay, you guys are probably gonna shake your head on this one, but I joined up one 10 millimeter half-inch extension to another 10 millimeter half-inch extension to, I don't know, what is that, a 4-inch, 5-inch extension, to a swivel, to a deep 14 millimeter socket. And I was able to get, because it's too tight in here to turn a wrench, so I went all the way back past the cross member for the transmission and was able to use a breaker bar right here. I was able to use, this is about a little over a foot breaker bar, I guess, or about a foot, and I was able to break the bottom bolt free, and now it's turning freely. So the next challenge is to get access to the top one, which I think is going to be harder. Okay, I was able to get to the top one by just using my 1/2-inch ratchet to a short 1/2-inch to a 10-inch 1/2-inch extension to another shorty to a swivel to a short 14 millimeter socket, and it worked. I just had to come up from the bottom at an angle to where I can turn the wrench. You know, you can see I have a little bit of room now to turn the wrench, and I was able to break it free. So that's how I got the top one busted loose. Okay, so now I got my hand up through here supporting the starter while I'm removing the top bolt out and screwing it. Hopefully you can see this, but maybe not. Let me adjust the angle here. So I'm just using my left hand to unscrew the bolt, supporting the starter with my right hand, and the bolt's free. And now the starter should come out. Yep, it's falling out. So now I'm going to try to come up through the wheel well and try to bring it out. Okay, I'm trying to make this thing come out of here. How it's going to come out, I don't know. Let's see. I think it's going to come out, but I don't know. Let's see. Maybe not. I'll have to fiddle with this, and I'll come back and show you if I was able to get it out this way. Okay, look at this orientation. So the starter connection to the battery is right here. The electrical connections right here that you took the clip out. So I had to rotate it and then bring it out in this orientation. I had to crank on this a little more to get it out of the way, and it comes out. So there it is. Now I can work out it on my workbench and see if I could get this thing apart and fix it without spending a whole bunch of money. Okay, it looks like the solenoid is in here. I could just look it up, but I'm pretty sure this is the solenoid because this is where the electrical connections are. I got to take off these 3 little nuts. I don't know what size they are. And then the contacts will be in here, and I'll be able to see what's going on. And then I'll have to take off these bottom nuts here to get the contacts out, from what I remember seeing online. So I'm going to figure out what size that is. Okay, it looks like to be an 8mm. So I'm just using a 1/4" ratchet with the shorty extension. I read that maybe the contacts are bad, and that's why the why is that not coming out? Anyways, I read that it could be the contacts that are bad, so that's what I'm gonna do. Got to get this socket off this little nut. Okay, I got the socket off of there. Gonna take these little 8mm bolts out. That's holding onto a little bracket right there. Got to remember that that goes in the bottom left corner. And then get this one out. I have never worked on a starter. I've actually never replaced a starter, so I've been pretty lucky, I guess. But and it's stuck in there again. Oh well. So let's see what this looks like. This is the plunger. Oh yeah, you could see that the contacts are worn down, especially this side right here, this right side. You can see that it's really worn down. The left side's not as worn, so maybe that's my problem. So I'm going to take these things out. Actually, I'm going to take the whole starter there and see if I can get contacts for it at the local Toyota dealership. And I'm going to try to get a replacement plunger too. So that's what I've read guys do. So hopefully I can replace the contacts, get it back together and try it out, and hopefully my starter doesn't continuously run and run and run. I'm now taking off this contact. Oh, it's a little stiff there. Maybe I'm going to get a bigger ratchet. This is a 12mm nut that holds this contact on the well, on the left side as I'm looking at it this way, the smaller of the 2 contacts. It looks like I gotta get this other one off so I can pull it out, the contact out all the way. That's a bigger nut. Okay. It's a 14mm. So I got to remember that that one goes on the outside. Then this one's next. What the hell is that? Then a washer, and that. Let's keep it in order. That's next, and then how is that thing wired in there? I'll have to figure this out. Okay, I just had to push it a little bit. So there's an O-ring here. So next in line is an O-ring, and then that's when I could pull this thing out. So this is the nut, and then the orientation is the bolt goes through this little contact here first. Let me see if I can get a light. I should be able to see that. The bolt goes through the contact, this right here, connected to the wire, and then the contact that I'm going to replace sits behind there. So it goes in like this, like so. So I just got to remember how that goes. So pull the contact out, and I'll do the same with the other side. Get it out. So there and there is the orientation. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. I'm going to take this bolt off and get the contact out. Let's see what size this is. That's a 14 millimeter. So now, not the cleanest working surface, but so now I'm going to be, we went left to right, and I'm going to go right to left towards here. So looks like there's some type of washer here. That's next. And then there's probably another O-ring here, so I'm just pushing on this thing. Just push it all the way out. So this one has an O-ring on the inside. See that? So it's got an O-ring right here. And this is the contact. And you can see how thin that is. So it's pretty worn out. So I'm going to bring both of these and the starter to the to Toyota and see if I can match them up. If not, I'm going to have to order them, I guess. So I'll try to get the plunger and the contacts. This is a better look at the plunger. So it slides in this way like this, and this is where the surface that it contacts those the contacts on the either side. So I can't tell if this is worn. I mean, it looks pretty scored up there. So I'm going to try to get a replacement for this too, along with the contacts here. Well, my trip to Toyota didn't pan out. They wanted $80, $80 for this plunger, a spring, and the two contacts in there. So I said, no way. I'm going to see if I can find it cheaper. That's crazy. $80 for two little contacts and a plunger. So I'm going to see if I could find it online. And this is kind of interesting how this works. So when the plunger goes in like this, it pushes the starter into the flywheel, turns it, and then that's how your motor starts. So kind of cool to see how it works. So I'm going to see if I could find the parts online and save myself some money. Okay, I am back. 3 days later. I had to go to work. I'm a firefighter, and so when I'm at work for a couple days, and I had to order parts. I tried my best to find a good price on parts, but I sort of failed on that regard because I looked on Amazon, I looked on eBay, I looked at Toyota online sites, and I could find parts for every starter under the sun, Denso starter, but I couldn't find the contacts in the plunger. This is the plunger, these are the contacts for this Denso starter. So I went to the local dealer, Stevens Creek Toyota, and I got some kits, and I'll show you those right now. Before I show you the packages of parts, my starter on my 2000 Toyota 4Runner SR5 four-wheel drive, the Toyota part number is 28100-62030, and then the corresponding Denso part number is 228,04082. And through my research, and then I finally confirmed it at Toyota. At first they were telling me I had a 1.4 kilowatt, but they were wrong initially. So this Toyota starter, this Denso part number corresponds to a 1.8 kilowatt. So you got to make sure you're ordering the right parts. And so, like I said earlier, I searched for parts for this Denso starter, and I could not find the correct contacts. And I don't know if it really makes that huge of a difference, but none of the things listed my starter as the correct starter for the parts they were selling, so I had to go to the dealer. So anyways, this is the orientation again of how these parts go in. So you have as you're looking in here, this side right here is this side. So you got the big contact with this bolt that goes through. This plastic piece fits in right through there. That raised edge goes in through there. Then on the outside, you put the O-ring over the bolt. Then next is this. It goes like on this direction. Then you put the skinny metal washer in between there, between that hole there. And then you put the bolt on to secure it. And then this last bolt is when you get ready to install it. This installs the wire that leads from the battery to the starter. And then on the left side, and the orientation is looking at the contacts with the plug-in clip on the upper right side. The left side, the orientation is you again got the bolt with the contact. The copper contact slides behind this connection in here. This metal connection, the back of the contact slides behind there. Then the bolt slides through the hole, or actually, then you got to get this plastic piece in there, facing the raised edge facing out. Then the next thing is you push the bolt through, you put the O-ring on again, and then this piece fits on like this. And then you put the washer inside the hole here, and then you tighten it down with that nut, and then you slide this connection after you put that nut on, and then you tighten down this connection with this. And so I hope that makes sense. And if this wasn't clear, well, when you take it apart, just pay attention. Lay it out like I have it laid out so you don't make a mistake. And then I'll show you now the parts that the kit that I bought from Toyota came with. So here's the plunger part number. This replaces this plunger right here. So it's a 28235-54380. Then this package is the small contact side. You'll see it comes with all the pieces. I really didn't need all those pieces, but it's kind of cool that it did, so maybe that's why it costs a little more. So the left side contact is 28226-72010, and then the right side contact with the bigger copper contact is a 28226-54340. And just remember that this is for, again, the model 62030. If you have a different starter in yours, then you're going to have to order the correct parts for that. But if you actually have the same one, then I've done the work for you. You just go to the Toyota dealership and ask for these parts. So now I'm going to assemble the starter with the new parts. They say work smarter, not harder, so I just finally put this thing in a vise. So this plastic piece goes in right like that. And then the contact, from what I remember, fits that direction. I'm going to put the bolt through. Wedge in there. I guess as you tighten it, it wedges in there. Then I put the O-ring on there. And then comes this thing is separate, so this little maroon gasket or whatever you call it goes on the edge there. You could kind of see the old one had it. I didn't even notice it was there until I looked at the new kit. So then there's a little indentation right here. I don't know if you see that. See that indentation right there? So this fits in there like that. Okay, put this back on my head. And then we got the washer. And then we have this nut. And this thing is knurled. I don't know if you saw this, but it's got knurls on the. I don't know if this one had it. I guess it did, but then it That's why it's like wedged in there. That's why I can't pull this thing out. So this has knurls that kind of force into there and keep it as one. So I assume when I tighten this thing down, it's going to pull the thing into fully into the knurls and seat. Okay, so this was, I think this is the one. Yep. Again, this is a 14 millimeter. Make sure I got this thing in the hole there. Yep, and then just pulling it in until it seats all the way. I don't know how tight this thing has to be. I don't even know if there's torque specs for that, but I ain't going to bother with it. You need torque specs? I don't know if I'm going to actually look this up for you. So that's one side right there. I got it all together. Now I'll open the next package. Let's see here. X-Acto blade. Okay. And then following, so remember I said that this plastic piece goes in. So right in the back here, slide it in, the raised edge pointing out. Then the contact goes behind this metal piece right here. Like that. You put the new bolt towards the outside. Then comes the rubber O-ring. Then comes this piece that fits over the O-ring. And then you put the washer on there. And then you put the small nut. Did I forget anything? Let's see. So, yep, so it was the only thing the kit doesn't come with was with this outer nut. So, yeah, I got the plastic piece. I got the contact with that, the rubber O-ring, this, washer, and now the nut. Okay, so I don't know what size. Is this a 12 millimeter also? Yep, 12 mil, or was it a 14? 14 millimeter. See if I can get that. I don't know if it matters, but let's get this a little more square. Okay, so both new copper contacts are in there now. I got to remember to use these two on either side. Now I'm going to get a little bit of grease. I cleaned up the, get the plunger out of here. I cleaned up the spring. That's the only thing I didn't really replace is the spring. I think they probably wanted too much for it, or I just forgot it. Who knows? But I'm going to just use some grease to lube this thing up. So maybe less resistance. This is just a bike grease. But I use it for bearings and stuff, so I'm sure it could handle this application, no problem. Slide this on there. They call this a plunger or a magnet. So this just drops down in there. And you can see how it makes contact with the, you know, when you hit the ignition, it makes contact and then releases. Mine wasn't releasing. And you can see down below, see how it's coming out. So it comes out, contacts the flywheel, turns the flywheel, starts the engine, then backs off and retracts. Okay. This rubber O-ring, or not rubber O-ring, rubber seal came off. This seals the solenoid. The solenoid cover goes on like so, and then get the bolt started. And this particular bolt goes here because it holds onto the wiring harness. Okay, and then this one, I found this one's the hardest one because you got this little breather in the way, so you got to crank this breather over to get it out of your way so you can turn the nut or turn the bolt. Okay, those are all started by hand. I'm not going to cross thread anything. I'm going to get my little socket, find it, here we are. You got the idea. I'm just going to cinch them down. This little boot that covers this contact was ripped, so I just put a zip tie on it to kind of hold it on there. So this contact goes over here like so, and this nut screws over and secures it on there. I don't know what size that is. What is that? Is that also that is a 12. It's a 1/4 inch. Okay. Maybe. Okay, so that's tightened on there, and then this boot just goes over the top. Twist the zip tie so it'll move. There we go. Jerry rigged, but I wasn't going to try to find this boot. I think you can actually find it on a website, but so this thing is ready for installation, and I'm going to hope that this was the problem of why it was sticking. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, this was the orientation that I got it out. So pull this brake line out of the way, fit this through, and then I'm going to have to rotate it once I get it through here into position. Pull the brake line out of the way a little more. There we go. It's through, I think. Yeah. I got the arm underneath there. I gotta readjust. I can't remember how I got my arm twisted in there. Okay. Well, I got my arm in there somewhere. Cut. Okay, I think I got it now. I figure out how to get my arm in there. So what I remember was that the battery contact was facing down, and then I gotta support this thing while I try to get a bolt in there. That might be harder than I think. Looks like I got the bottom one going. See if I get the top one going. Doing it all from the wheel well here. Is this the best way? I don't know. I have no clue. It's kind of a learning experience. I did read up on it, but would it be easier from the bottom? Could be. But I seem to be getting it. Just reaching up. I almost got the top one tightened all the way. Cinched up just with my hand. Okay. And I'm working on the bottom one now. So this is going to take a little bit, so I'm going to cut and come back. Okay, look at the setup that I'm accessing the bolts to tighten them. I got a 14mm short socket, a swivel, a short 1/2 inch extension, a little bit longer extension, and then a 10-inch extension. And I'm using a 1/2 inch ratchet so I can get up there and tighten them. What are the torque specs for this? I don't know. I could look them up for you, and I'll put them in the video later. But I think to get accurate torque reading, you have to be perpendicular to the bolt. You can't be at a total harsh angle like I am trying to get at these bolts. So I don't even think a torque reading will be accurate anyway. So how tight am I going to get them? I'm going to get them pretty tight. Those are pretty big bolts. They can handle a lot of torque, so I'm not going to crank on them super tight, but I'll get them pretty tight with the 1/2 inch drive and call it good. So here I am tightening the top one. That's not getting on there square as I hoped. There we go. Yeah, that slipped off. Not as easy as it looks. Tighten the bottom one a little bit. Let's go back up to the top. I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but it's probably an easier way to do this than what I'm doing, but I don't know. That upper bolt for sure is hard to get to. Pretty darn hard. That's a better contact with the nut there on the bolt. Try to hold it on there a little better. It's kind of funky with the swivel. I haven't used swivels too much to tighten things, but it works. So that's what I'm going to do. You got the gist of it. You know, using a swivel, coming up from behind to get up onto the bolts. Okay, I'm plugging in the contact. That's plugged in, and then I'm going to get the this wire hooked up. I'm just going to take that bolt off or nut off, put the wire on, tighten it up. It's kind of hard for me to film this and do it at the same time, so I'm showing you what I'm going to do next. Okay, this is the moment of truth. I got the starter hooked up, I got the electrical cable bolted on, and now I'm going to see that it starts before putting the brake line brackets back on and putting the wheel back on. I'm not going to assume that I fixed it, so I'm going to try to start it now, and if it works, good. Got fingers crossed. And it works. So replacing the contacts in the plunger fixed the starter. Didn't have to buy another one, just had to fix the one that I had. Now I got to put everything back together. What was that? I'm going to get the the bolt that holds the transmission dipstick in. It's up there. Let me get a. It's up right there. You could see it. I don't know if the light's messing up the light with my hand. It goes right there. So I'm just going to get that bolt in through the wheel well. So if you remember, this brake line goes into this bracket, so I got to lift this up and fit it back into this little bracket here. Snap it in. So that's in. The bolts that held that the brake brackets onto the frame, those are really kind of tight and not lubricated, so I'm going to put a little grease on those. So one goes right here, one goes right here, so I'm going to grease it up a little bit and then reinstall it. So again, I'm going to use this bike grease. Move that up a bit. This tab goes in here like so. I don't know if I got this thing right. Something's cattywampus. There we go. That's it. Okay, that one started. I'm going to get the other side started too. I have to get underneath the rig to do that. Forgot there's this little plastic thing that covers the connection. So I'm just going to snap this thing on. So that goes over the main connection. And my bracket is on. The other bolt on the other side is tight. I'm just going to get this little, whatever you, whatchamacallit, thingamajigger, doohickey. This rubber thing. Get that on next. Okay, got the mud flap or whatever the hell you want to call it. Little doohickey. These plastic tabs were kind of pressed against the frame, so I used this small, it's in a small screwdriver set, kind of pried it away from the frame to slip it underneath. And then these over here, you could just reach your hand and kind of push them out from the opposite side, so you can slide the rubber behind it. You just kind of stretch out the hole and fit it around it. It's really flexible. And that is about it. I just got to get the wheel on and get it back on all four wheels. In case you were wondering, you wanted the torque spec, if you think you could actually get an accurate torque spec on there. The torque spec is 29 foot-pounds for the two bolts that hold the starter onto the bell housing of the transmission. But like I said, I had to come up at an angle with the swivel, and I think you only get accurate torque specs if you're at a right angle to the bolt or nut that you're torquing. So I really don't think it's possible to get an accurate torque spec unless you can hit the bolts at a right angle, which in this application there was no way I was going to be able to do that. It's too hard to get in there. Here's a pretty good schematic of the solenoid right here. So it shows you from the front going in, you got the three little screws that I showed you that I took off this plate. That was a little bracket that holds the wire on. You got the gasket, you got the plunger or magnet that slides in, and then you got your contacts on either side. So it shows the different contacts. So the way it's looking at it, that was the big contact on the right side when I was showing you earlier, and then the smaller contact was over here. But it's kind of cool. It shows you the orientation, the O-ring, blah blah blah. And so if you forgot taking it apart, if you have a factory service manual, you'd be able to get everything back in the right orientation. So that's a kind of a nice schematic right there. The torque spec for the bolt that holds the upper part of the oil, the transmission oil fill pipe, dipstick pipe, is 9 foot-pounds. Right here it says it's for the 3RZ, the 4-cylinder, but it doesn't mention anything. There's the bolt right there for the for our engine, for the 6-cylinder. So it doesn't say anything different, so I'm guessing it's 9 foot-pounds. I didn't even bother using a torque spec. It's only holding a really light tube, so just snugging up and don't strip it. That's my suggestion. And I looked for the torque spec for the bolts that hold the brake bracket on, and I searched in the braking area, but I didn't want to look all that hard. I couldn't find it on my first search, and it's not that important. Again, it's just a bolt that's holding on the brake bracket. Cinch it up, just don't over tighten it, don't strip it, and you'll be good to go. So here's another look at the one of the contacts, the larger of the two contacts that makes contact with the plunger. You could see how much it's worn down. This should all be one thickness, and that's a good millimeter and a half or two less, where the plunger just over time has come in contact and worn it down. And I think, well, let me show you to get the other contact. So for some reason, the smaller of the two contacts doesn't get as worn down. I've seen this on other write-ups and videos. The bigger contact gets worn down. So I'm thinking maybe that's partly the cause of why my plunger got stuck to the contacts and wouldn't disconnect, and it kept the starter running even with the key off. I think the plunger, that's not going to stay up for me, is it? So the plunger comes down. Where's the plunger at? Right here. It comes down and makes contact with these contacts, and so because one is higher than the other, maybe it was able to just get cocked in there and stuck. So that's my theory. Again, this is how the plunger contacts, one of the contacts kind of, I can't hold both of them at the same time, it's too hard. But, you could see that, it just wore a groove right in there. So, I don't know, the lighting's probably not good enough here, but anyways, it just wore a groove in it, and over time it just wore it down. So, you're probably done with listening to me talking. I am Timmy the Tool Man, and I just showed you how to fix your starter without having to replace the whole thing and give up your high quality Denso starter for something you got at O'Reilly's or AutoZone or Napa. Try this first. Take the starter out, take a look at the contacts, take a look at the plunger. If they're really worn down, instead of buying a remanufactured one and then having to give the core, you have to give your starter to them in order to save money. Keep your original starter, buy the contacts from the dealer or wherever you can find them, and then fix it yourself, just like I showed you. One thing I didn't mention is that I spent $69 for these parts. The parts. Thank you for watching Toyota Time with Timmy the Tool Man. This was a successful repair, and I hope this helps you fix your own starter if it goes out. Bye-bye.